So I think what's important to talk about is the fact that over the last 10 years, if 2024 projections are accurate, political advertising spend will have grown by 500% over the last 10 years, which is huge. And it has implications on the everyday advertiser. So if you think about it, when did this really start to occur? 2020 was really the year that things started to shift. So when you look at this chart, and I think, Subi, you and I have chatted about this, these numbers are in the billions.
Yeah.
This is not hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is billions. And you can see that 2020 was where things really started to explode. I think $9 billion was spent on the presidential election alone, more than half of which was spent on broadcast TV. And then almost 30% of that was spent on digital, mostly on Facebook.
Yeah, and I think the reason why I really wanted you to impress the billions piece, because what we want to talk about is how much more is being spent right now in politics and how that impacts advertising in general. And if I look at this chart, it almost looks like, oh, that's such a marginal lift, really. But that sliver means hundreds of millions of dollars, really.
Right.
Which as these entities, these temporary entities come in and they take up space, it impacts the rest of us who need to market for businesses. So I thought it was really powerful and important for us to share this specific one. What other facts, what other things are people really needing to think about right now?
Yeah, essentially what that chart tells us is advertisers who are typically spending year in and year out, those same budgets that they're spending, or even if they're spending more, they're getting less for what they're paying. So that's a key thing here. We know as advertisers that supply and demand will dictate the amount of inventory and the rates, but in political years, that is on steroids because so much money is being funneled in by politicians and PACs, and they have these political windows and lowest unit rate opportunities, which really drive up costs for the everyday advertiser.
Amanda, for those who might not be aware, can you kind of explain and walk us through what the lowest unit rate actually means and what it means for businesses?
Sure. So way back in the 70s, a federal act, it's called the Federal Campaign Act, gives candidates 2 windows of opportunity where they can have the lowest unit rate. And what that means is no matter when they're coming in, no matter what the strain on inventory, where pricing is right now, they are afforded the lowest rate that airtime was ever sold for. And these 2 windows of opportunities are around the primaries and the general election. So with primaries, Pennsylvania just had ours yesterday. There's a 45-day window for primaries, and for the general election, it's 60. So the lowest unit rate window will start on September 6th.
So you've already given us quite a bit. So I just kind of want to recap a little bit. So we're spending more by a significant amount. There's more than 500% growth over just the last 10 years. There's more spending from these parties temporarily creates a different type of demand and scarcity, which means your business doesn't have as much visibility. And this act really focuses the time and the way in which politicians and parties can spend their money or when they're spending their money. That really is what that act is about. Am I missing any of that?
No, you're absolutely correct. Now, they can advertise anytime throughout the year. They're not limited to that. But in those windows, they have a more cost-efficient, advantageous time period to advertise. So that's why you start to see that heat, that those never-ending political ads, the closer we inch to a primary or the closer we inch to November.
So let's stay on that for 1 second, because that seems like they're protected. So what happens to people that have, the way that we try to work with our partners is we're planning a year in advance. Sometimes they have these set schedules based on their events and things. What happens to those people?
So in my experience, it's the never-ending emails of make goods. So your television or radio vendor will send you a proposal for new placements. So you might be bumped out of a highly sought after 6 p.m. or 11 p.m. news slot and be offered things in daytime, which aren't going to afford you the same visibility. Or you might be bumped altogether, which means your spots don't run. You won't spend anything, obviously, but you're also losing that visibility.
Good Lord. So I know you guys had some good stories about this, so we're going to skip around a little bit, but Jen and Amanda, just to bring it to life of what you've actually seen, could you share some of your stories that you witnessed?
Sure. I had a similar circumstance happen about 3 weeks ago with March Madness in the Indianapolis market. We had place schedules in September of 2023. They were booked for the year. On the Thursday heading into the Final Four, I got a notification that the spots were getting blown out. I had absolutely no repercussion. This was a high profile, high demand in a key area because Purdue all went to the finals. They were blown out, and there was absolutely no repercussion that I had. To Amanda, the point, politicians are guaranteed the lowest unit rate, and they can go in and preempt other advertisers, and everybody hurts: the station, the clients.
So if you lost, you booked that in 2023. So that obviously, we've talked to businesses about booking their advertising and thinking and planning for the year ahead. But now that we're in 2024, what can businesses do, now, and how can we adjust to these different pockets where, a business is in a location where a primary is 45 days out? What now?
Yeah. So in my experience, so the example that I was going to give, I have a client who consistently advertises on traditional, year in, year out, books annuals. And in recent years, we've seen their October schedules basically not run. So what I think it comes down to, Drew, is being more strategic about your flighting. So if you have to be or want to be on traditional channels, running your ads in months where you're not seeing that high demand, where you're not in that lowest unit rate window. Traditional media is really about awareness. And if you are consistently in the market, you're not going to lose brand equity because you took a pause in October when the public is being inundated with so many political ads anyway. You can also shift those dollars to digital tactics. So looking at and going after those mid to low funnel shoppers that you might have. So no longer trying to reach the general public there to the point of tune out, but those people who have already shown interest in your product or offering, who would be more likely to welcome the exposure, to be more apt to listen because it's something that they're interested in.